And I'm thinking, oh boy, how are we going to do this? So I became like a savage and I Googled it and Googled it and Googled it. It took me 4 hours and 45 minutes.
Hey everybody, what is going on? It's your man Nathan, and we are back for an episode of No Label Live today. And I've got a very special guest. Brittany McCormick is joining me today, all the way from South Africa, ladies and gentlemen. So, Brittany, usually we do all these intros and everything, but here's how I like to do my intros. Who is Brittany McCormick?
Wow, who am I? I'm a young lady that was born with cerebral palsy, quadriplegia of high muscle tone. I've always known that I wanted to be a motivational speaker, and I've embarked on that journey in the past 6 or 7 months. I've spoken internationally, locally, twice. I've spoken internationally in front of 159 countries virtually. I've been interviewed in a few interviews as well as podcasts, and I just want to make an impact in society and show that no matter what people say about you or how you're seen, you are still capable. And that's what I strive to do.
All right, that's awesome. What that makes me think of, I want you to imagine right now that you have just now been invited to join Oprah for a conversation, right? So
Right.
you're speaking to millions of people at that point. If you could only say one thing to Oprah and to her audience, what would that be?
There is success within failure. Just because you failed once doesn't mean you're going to fail again. It just means you need to try another way to succeed.
Mm. And so, what kind of created that thought for you? How did you arrive to that conclusion?
I loved it. I loved it. A lot of the time, I didn't succeed in things, and a lot of the time, I thought to myself, do I give up or do I keep going? And that's when it dawned on me that that is life. Just because you failed doesn't mean you'll never succeed. It just means you need to find another way. Because as a disabled person, we can't do things the way a person without a disability can. We have to take 10 times longer and do things differently. Think about how we put on for me, how I put on my jacket. I put on my jacket with one hand. And and then people see this and they go, wow, whoa, how did she even do this? And you sit back and you just say, well, it's about understanding that just because I don't do it the way you do it doesn't mean I can't do it. You know?
Yeah, 100%. And so, man, it's so interesting. So the funny thing, so you talked about putting on your jacket there. What came up for me was the fact that I have to wear two different size shoes, and I'm talking about two very different size shoes, where one's like sometimes it's a 10 and then the other one can be an 8, so two shoe size difference. And like just the having to have that be a reality of my life means like not many people are out there having to think about, well, how expensive are these shoes if I have to buy them twice.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so when's the first time that you think you actually had the realization that you wanted to do something so bad, and you knew it was going to take trying to do it differently than how you saw other people doing it?
I think I was in my late teens, mid-teens, and I wanted to do something. I wanted to learn to do my makeup.
Mm.
And for ladies, you know, you're a lady, you want to put on makeup, you want to feel pretty by putting on some makeup. Not say you have to put makeup on to feel beautiful, but that's what most women do, they put on makeup. And I watched my sister doing her makeup, and I'm thinking, well, I would love to do this. How do I do this? You know, and I did. It took me 3.5 to 2.5 years just to learn how to do the basics properly. Then about over 2 years ago, my sister was getting married. And she said to me, look, Brittany, can you please grow your hair? Now, with my disability, I've never had long hair. I've always had short shaved hair because it's quick, easy. You don't need to do much. You just need to put your fingers through it and go. And I thought, whoa, okay, this is a bit of a challenge, but I'll do it. You know, and so I did. And then lockdown hit and I couldn't go for a haircut. and my heart's desire was to always have long hair. I always wanted long hair. And so my mom said to me, please go and tie your hair up. And I'm thinking, oh boy, how are we going to do this? So I became like a savage and I Googled it and Googled it and Googled it. It took me 4 hours and 45 minutes to learn how to tie up my own hair. And that is how I knew that it would take me some time. With those two things, it would take me time to learn to do
it. Hey, I don't have hardly any hair at all, but I relate to that story. You know, for me, what I think about with that, and you can tell me if it's the same sort of like what you kind of experienced as you were trying to figure out the tying up of your hair. But like, you know, when people have stacks of playing cards or index cards, and then they double up the rubber band so they hold them all together.
Yeah.
That's like me trying to tie my hair up if I had hair. I can't. It took forever. And you guys, if you don't have, like if this isn't something that you struggle with figuring out, you'll never understand how exciting something super simple can make.
Actually be.
Yeah, because like we may not be able to do it, but we realize for most people this is really, really simple. But for us, it is an accomplishment for sure.
Yeah, it is. And I also realized that I can do this and it's not going to be perfect and I don't care. Not that I don't care, it's just that there's so much more to life than worrying about whether your ponytail is straight or your bun is straight or your shirt is tucked in straight. There's so much more to life. And growing up, my parents at a very young age started teaching me how to dress myself. And it took a while, and still to this day, sometimes it's not the neatest, but it's still something. You know, I still am able to dress myself and wash myself and, you know, do the basics, the very bare minimum. And what got really exciting for me was when I learned to button up my pants for the first time. I was 9 years old and I learned how to button up my pants. And I was in the toilet and I actually cried because I learned how to button up my jeans.
Yeah.
I was so excited about that. And I can't explain the excitement I had.
What did that represent to you?
For me, it represented one step closer to being independent to the best way that I can be. You know, and this is what I've learned throughout my life. I'm independent, yes, but to the point where I can cope. And there's nothing wrong with asking, hey, do you mind just helping me zip up my jacket if I'm struggling? Or, hey, do you mind helping me tie my shoes? There's no shame in it. You know, I mean, most women, when they meet a man and they can't tie their shoes, they feel like Cinderella because, you know, guys tying your shoe, you feel like a princess. And that's okay. You know, I understand that there's a lot of things that it's going to take more than just a couple of years to figure it out. But that's all right because I'll get there.
Yeah, it definitely simple things that can create a sense of independence and increase independence is so huge. So when you are speaking to your audiences, you talk about seeing the ability and not the disability. So where did that really come from? Like what, maybe there are a couple stories in your life that created that as the message. So if you could share where that kind of came from for you, that'd be awesome.
So seeing the ability and not the disability comes from a very raw and deep story. I was born with cerebral palsy, quadriplegia, and I was 25 weeks pregnant. And doctors didn't even know if I'd make it to the age of 18. And I was on 4% oxygen, and doctors were basically fighting to keep me alive. And I made it. And I've made it to the age of 24, but growing up, it wasn't easy. My life was not easy. It was a blessed one. It is a blessed one, but it wasn't easy. And I was bullied in school by teachers and by students. And I was told, you'll never succeed. You'll never succeed. You'll never be where you want to be. You'll never be able to do anything that you've ever strived for, ever dreamed of, and ever thought of. And I sat back and I thought, well, how do you know? That's an opinion, that's not a fact. And a lot of the time, people get put in a box, okay? We get labeled a lot, all right? And what happens is, oh, shame, the disabled person, they can't do this, oh, shame, oh, shame. No. And that's where I found where this has always been deep in my heart. And I've experienced it with adults that meet me for the first time and people that don't really know me and are getting to know more about me. A lot of the time, I don't know if you've experienced this, Nate, where people don't know how to greet you.
Yeah, for sure.
They have no idea. They don't know, do they hug you? Do they shake your hand? Do they run away? Do they run a mile? Do they walk slowly? What do they do? And in a way, they almost become childlike, like shy and nervous. And I sat back and I thought, but hold on, I'm just like you. I might do it differently, but sorry, excuse me. But I'm just like you. And that's where it all came in, is really sitting back and thinking, okay, Brittany, you don't have a strong educational background. You don't. I have a grade 5. And what can you do with this? What can you do to be an impactful member? Whether it starts with one person, two people, or 4 people, what can you do to make people see your ability and not your disability. You know, Nate, a lot of the time people are shocked when they have a conversation with me as to my level of maturity emotionally, because they seem to have this understanding that, oh, wow, what am I going to say to her? She's got a disability. There's no way she can talk about normal things, relationships, love, um, uh, going for dinner, having a friend around, coffee or tea. It's not seen as normal for a disabled person. It's seen as weird or awkward or funny, you know, and that's where I come in and I say, well, hold on a minute. I can still have these things. And a lot of it, and in the beginning of last year or the year before, I can't exactly remember, I got on a treadmill for the first time and I walked slowly like a snail. And, you know, getting on a treadmill as a disabled person is extremely difficult because it's constantly moving, right? It's constantly like,
Yeah.
it's going and going and going and going. And you're, for me, I'm scared of falling.
Yep.
So, and I did a walk on the treadmill, and then lockdown hit, and then I took part in a race. And that's when that really struck in my heart, that I can do something. And it's really about seeing your abilities in your condition and understanding that, okay, cool, it's never going to be perfect, but that's okay. That's all right. You know, and I sat in the course that I was doing for presenting and learning how to do this correctly. And I sat back and I thought, well, what do people really need? What does everybody need that they don't even know that they need help with? And it's seeing your ability and not your disability. Because how many times do you sit back and think, okay, I can't do this, I don't want to do this, I don't have the strength to. But then you look at somebody like myself or like yourself with a disability, and we're making it happen. And it just helps them see their own ability and not their disability. And that's where it all comes from.
And with all of that happening, what's the one thing you wish more people would ask you about, but they don't?
What's the one thing that I wish more people would ask me about, but they don't? How do you feel about people treating you when they see you for the first time? Or what exactly is your condition and not what's wrong with you? Things like, for example, I want the normal things. I want a husband, I want children, and I want people not, just because we might talk slowly or explain things differently doesn't mean we're childlike. And that's really one of the biggest things that I really want people to know, is that we do want the same things, we do feel the same emotions, and we do desire the normal things that an average person can do, you know, and yes, it might take us 10 times longer, but it doesn't mean we can't do it. Just give us a chance to.
Yeah. And who's one person in your life that is a person that took a chance on you?
Sorry, could you explain that?
Yeah. So I have a belief that there are times in life when you may not believe in yourself, and it requires other people believing in you before you can believe in yourself. So who's a person that's done that for you?
I wouldn't pinpoint it down to one person because I had a teacher when I was in school that she really inspired me and motivated me, but that wasn't the only person. I had my parents and I had my sister, who I see as my best friend. She really made a big impact in my life, and so did my parents, because they raised me to believe that yes, you're different. Yes, people are not going to understand or even care to understand at some points, but that shouldn't stop you. And yes, you can cry. Yes, you can feel pain, but keep pushing forward, because it's in that that you truly find the strength to keep going.
Mm. Yeah. How many people, whether you're listening to this or you're watching that, how many people can relate to that? I'm sure there's a whole lot that can. So if you were talking to your 6-year-old self, what's a message you would leave with her coming from you today?
Don't get frustrated. Don't get irritated with yourself, and don't don't let the negativity of others.
And so what do you think is required to actually make that happen? Like, what do you do today when you start to feel yourself get frustrated? What tools do you use to help yourself remember what you just said?
The tools that I use are really is pray, because I'm a huge believer in the Lord, and He doesn't make mistakes. And I also just take a step back and say, well, hey, I need to ask for help in this, or okay, cool. Let's take 2 steps back to take 10 steps forward. And that's all it takes. 2 steps back to take 10 steps forward. One day at a time, a deep breath and a moment for yourself. And to realize that without taking moments for yourself, you can't be mentally strong for others.
Yeah. And so, yeah, that's powerful. The fact that if you're not helping yourself, there's no way you can help others, for sure. What I like to end on a very specific question, but before I do that, is there something that maybe we haven't talked about that you would like to touch on with the audience today?
So the thing that I would like to touch on is don't let others stop you from truly achieving what you believe is possible. Don't set limits on yourself because of other people's opinions. People's opinions are not facts, and allow those opinions to make you stronger. Don't allow them to break you. Allow them to build you, not to break you. And if you can't change it, learn to accept it. Grow with it, find the value in it, and understand it.
And how has your disability created that thought that you just shared with us right there about acceptance?
My disability has helped me understand that it's never going to be the way it is for everybody else. It's never ever going to be that way. And that's okay. And it took me a very, very long time to accept that. And, acceptance is not about it being perfect. It can be, and acceptance takes time. It's not going to happen overnight. And it's just about knowing who you are and how you can add value to the world. And what can you do to make somebody else smile? Like, for example, I love giving compliments to people. So first thing they do is they walk in and I give them a smile and I look at what they're wearing and I say to them, wow, that looks really nice on you, or wow, you look very good, wow, you're really a beautiful woman, or you're really a beautiful person inside and out. And what I at times often do is I look at them and I say, whoa, you really do look beautiful. And it's not in a vulgar or dirty way or anything like that. It's without realizing it. When you compliment somebody, you make their day. And by making their day, you can change their life.
Yeah. And for you guys who have been following me for any amount of time, you know that one of the projects that we do is we take sticky notes or index cards and we write notes of encouragement and leave them in public places to find. And I think that has that same sort of idea, right? We never know how one kind word could change a life and could save a life. So I love that. And so the final question here that I've got is, what does no label defines me mean for you?
No label defines me means to me that you can say what you want about me behind my back. You can laugh at me, you can mock me, you can call me weirdo, you can call me disabled kid, you can call me slowpoke, you can call me whatever you want. But that's not going to stop me. I know my purpose, I know my value, and that's a fact.
I know my purpose, I know my value. I think that's a beautiful thing to focus in on for everyone. What is your purpose and what value are you bringing to the world? Because both of those things, you have them for sure. And so, Brittany, how can people, if they've enjoyed our conversation today, how can they get in contact with you? And we'll drop all this stuff in the show notes.
So there are a few ways you can get a hold of me. You can get a hold of me on LinkedIn under Brittany McCormick, or you can contact me on Instagram, Brittany Jade McCormick without the K, or on Facebook, Brittany McCormick. And then from there, I can direct you to my website. You'll find my website in my bio.
Awesome. Well, we'll make sure all that's linked up, like I said. And Brittany, I appreciate you joining us for this episode of No Label Live and dropping some great insight on your experience of living with cerebral palsy and how that's kind of created what you are doing to impact the world. So thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a blessing and a privilege to be here.